Hello, and welcome to another segment of the Radioactive Rant. White supremacy is an odd thing. It's an odd deal. Now, I'd like to explain briefly the difference between white supremacy and racism. You see, white supremacy is worldwide. People of color, hence your Asians, Southeast Asia, are white supremacists. Of course, we know Europe, white supremacists. Racism, however, is a different animal. Now, you can be a racist all you want, just as long as you're not projecting that racism onto me. Since white supremacy is global, that would call for an incredible amount of effort for the supremacist, the white supremacist. So if you wanted to, or if you will, you could just work on your racism. But here is where the paths intertwine. Racism profits from white supremacy. So as a racist or a racist person, you might be inclined not to change your racist ways because you profit from that. You profit in your schools, you profit in the workplace, you profit leisurely. The whole idea of segregation back in Jim Crow was that white folks were able to say, anybody but you in this theater. And that gives one the sense of superiority. Now, today, as a 64-year-old African American, I am extremely enjoying white supremacy per se. What I mean by that is that white supremacy is power. Power reacts in different ways when it's cornered, when it's assaulted. For instance, if I were to tell one of my white friends, hey, slavery has been over for a long time, that might break out into a fight. That's white supremacy. You've cornered me, and the only way I know, the only way a white person knows to react is to fight. We're going to fight now because you're talking to me about slavery. Here's another reaction. White supremacy. Well, I wasn't around when slavery existed. Problem. You profited from that. The clothes on your back. The tools that you use. For instance, a lot of white folks love golf. Do you know that it was a black man, he was a dentist, that created the golf tee? A little more on black history. Let's talk about horse racing. There were a number in the 18th or the 17th century, 18th century, of black jockeys that won Kentucky derbies. Back to white supremacy assaulted and cornered. A few years ago, I was out, this personal story, a few years ago I was out in my garage, tooling around, and there was a white boy across the street trying to lug a washing machine or a refrigerator onto a truck. Now, I happen to know the makeup of the white people in my area, in Arizona, and a lot of them are from Kentucky and Tennessee, more specifically, Appalachia. And a lot of them, well, those are slave-owning states. And what they're they're used to is expressions like, you ought to watch the way you talk to white folks. Okay? White folks walk fast, black folks walk past. Those are those little jockeys that people used to, little black jockeys that people used to, put on people's lawns. That's what they were there for. If you black, keep walking. Don't even stop. Just keep walking. So this white boy, he comes over to me and he says, hey, I need some help with this wash machine. So I looked at that white boy and I said, well, I can't help you. This is God honest truth. His expression was disbelief. That white boy looked at me and he said, what? And I repeated, I'm not helping you. You see how white folks act towards when white supremacy is threatened. He comes from that exact place. Even though he didn't exist at that time, he comes from that exact place in Jim Crow and slavery that says you ought to watch the way you talk to white folk. A little while ago, now I tell you how many people I know who I once called friends, white folks. And, when you start talking race with white folks, they get funky. Like I said, I wasn't there. I didn't have anything to do with it. That's the wrong statement, and I will tell you why it's wrong. You will almost never, ever, ever get a white supremacist to say to you, what can I do? I have no interest in that. What I want to do is run away from it, and I will run away from you. Thus, we are no longer friends. I don't have a problem with that. That is cornering white supremacy. That gives me power. Friendship means nothing to me unless it's true friendship. Friendship with glad-handing and backslapping and drinking in the tavern all night is one thing. But when I talk to you about slavery and racism and white supremacy, your response is not to be, I had nothing to do with it. You had everything to do with it. Let me give you a point. Let me give you a point in case. Okay. When you say you had nothing to do with it, I don't know anything about that. Let's talk about your people. Okay? Now, there are some good white folks out there. Okay? Now, this is typically what would happen. A foreman at a white plant, car, mercantile, engineering, shipping, meat packing, whatever. There are some good white folks there that did say, you know what, I'm going to integrate. I want some black people. We get some black people in here, okay? That's the supervisor, the foreman, manager. However, there is another component, and that other component is the workers. And that would be your father. The workers would jump up and say, God damn, we'll be damned if any niggas are going to work here. We will revolt, we will strike, we will walk off the job right now. You see how your fathers and your uncles contributed to white supremacy? That manager could not do that. That manager would be fired and never be hired again. This is how you benefit. And back to the inventions, a lot of inventions. The shoe lasting machine, blood pressure, doctors, black doctors that invented these things. You all benefited from that, but then the powers that be in white supremacy buried that. You would be hard pressed to ever understand or to know anybody that will tell you about black jockeys winning consecutive Kentucky derbies. But today, Triple Crown, that's a big thing. That's a big thing, and there are no black jockeys. That's white supremacy. Back to white supremacy being interestingly funny and amusing when cornered. And actually dangerous, if you will. Some white folks like to tell themselves that they are good white folks. Some white folks fancy themselves that they don't see color. But yet, when found out and approached. In the fact that, yeah, you can say that, but I'm calling you a bigot. We all see color. Unless you are blind and can't see the forest for the trees, you are lying to me. God, that white supremacist will tuck its tail between its legs and scurry away faster than cockroaches with a bright light shined on them in the middle of the night. God! See what I'm saying? God. No discussion, no debate, just God. That's white supremacy. Now, the power for me is, I could give a fuck. I'm just going to tell you, see, white supremacy depends on not being cornered and not being approached. You see, they depend on that. Because with that, they can hide under the cloak of darkness. Now, let's talk about white supremacy. Just we'll get back to how they are cornered like rats when they're cornered like rats. Let me tell you another little thing that happened to me. I was in Hawaii back in 2007, 2006. And I was roaming around up in Willie Nelson's hometown of Paia. And I'm walking around up there, and I see this shaggy dude looking like white boy. And he is giving me the upside down okay sign, shaking his hand. Okay? Now, I want to tell you something, people. I can smell a rat from a mile away. And that upside down okay signal is a sign of white supremacy. Now, people are just getting on to that now. But this is going a way back. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. But what I do realize is what? Cop. When I see one. And even though he looked like Shaggy Doo, okay, or Scooby-Doo, Shaggy on Scooby-Doo, he wasn't fooling anybody. He was a cop. And he was going to arrest me if I solicited dope. And he was going to arrest me. Now here is the big joke. He is going to arrest me because he's going to, when he arrests me, he's going to tell all his white supremacist buddies is that the nigga was so stupid he didn't even realize I was flashing a signal of white supremacy. That's white supremacy, okay? That's the long game. Now, lately, concerning this election coming up in 2020, white folks are getting real afraid, scared. Some white folks even see the writing on the wall. Let me back off that for a minute. I will come back to it. Back to when you assault white supremacy. I had one white dude. We got into it. And he realized he was wrong, you see. So we're going to bury the hatchet. But this is what white supremacy does. Okay? White supremacy buries the hatchet without conceding power. So the white boy told me, we are not going to talk about this again. Hint, white supremacy. I control. We're okay. We buried the hatchet, but we're not talking about this race, black and white stuff anymore. And that way you can be my friend. You can be my nigga friend. Well, nigga said, fuck you. White boy was gone. Now this all occurred on Facebook. White boy was gone. Never to be heard again. If white supremacy cannot control the situation, they are cornered, and therefore it's fight or flight. And most white folks like to flee. That is the only power that they have left, is to run away. Bye-bye, c'est la vie, good fucking riddance. Okay, fast forward. So now, and this all gives me power. Okay, this is my power, because I don't care. I do not care. At this late stage in the game where I'm 65 and dead, this does not matter to me. The problem or the soul searching and the epiphany is when you understand white supremacy and how it operates, and it doesn't like being cornered at all. It will be fight or flight, and if you cannot fight, they will flee. There is no debate. There's no reasoning. There's no rationing. Gone. You have offended my sense of European ancestry, my white supremacy. Nothing more that we can do here. Bye-bye. And I say, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Fast forward. So I was talking about how white folks are seeing this 2020 election. Some white folks are seeing it. Okay. Now, the mainstream media knows it. The Democrat, and now I'm talking about on the Democratic side. So y'all know you have two sides of politics here today, and they're both white supremacy. One is the left hand, which is your liberals, liberal white supremacists, and then you have your right hand, which is your conservative white supremacists. Now, the right hand of white supremacy is just out there. They're just out there. They didn't tell you. Trump just came out and tell you all Mexicans are rapists and criminals. Some may be very good people. Okay? He said, black folk, vote for me. What do you got to lose? Meaning that I ain't going to give you shit, but I'll take your vote. That's white supremacy, see? And mainstream media knows what I'm about to tell you as well. They are in on the fix. They carry the water for white supremacy, left and right. So I got this white boy, and he sees what's happening. Very smart white boy, he sees what's happening. And so he puts up a graphic that shows that in 2016 in key swing states, the number of black folks that didn't vote, and he sees this. But as I said, there are some good white folks who have told themselves that they are not part of white supremacy. Now, that means not to me. This is how white supremacy acts when it's cornered. Now, the caption on that graphic, where all the white people, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Michigan, where all the white folks, Florida, where all the black folks stayed home, and this is the reason why you have the orange con man. When he was told, when I told him, sorry, I get ahead of myself, pardon me. His caption for that graphic is, let this sink in, my African American brothers and sisters. See, white supremacy. See, I have to do something. I have to let this sink in. Well, what I told that boy is this. I told that boy I don't have to do anything. Okay? In fact, I'm willing to give you 4 more years of Donald Trump. And I'm 65 and dead. Now, these numbers you're putting out there, those are foundational blacks. In other words, African Americans that are direct descendants of slaves. And they are saying, fuck you. Okay? Now, I basically told the white boy this in, in so many words. I have not heard shit from that white boy. That white boy shut the fuck up quicker than a Venus flytrap closing on a goddamn blowfly. That white boy backed up, put his tail between his legs, and I ain't heard shit from him. And this is how white supremacy works. See, now, as I told you, he thinks that he's a good white boy. But he is a proponent of white supremacy. He was telling me to vote in his best interest for Joe the Bigot Biden so I could get a pat on the head and a kick in the ass. And when I told him that ain't going to happen, white supremacy does what white supremacy does best. When cornered, it's fight or flight, and I haven't heard a word from that white boy. That is how you corner white supremacy. And I want to tell you people, at this time in life, okay, at this day and age, it is nothing but sheer joy to corner these white supremacists. You cannot sit there and fake to me, pat me on the head, and kick me in my ass, and tell me to vote for the status quo. That ain't happening. I have missed one election so far this year. I have a blank ballot to prove it. And I will not be voting for you Democratic National Party. Now, this is the thing. They know this. They know, as I told you, they know this. And these motherfuckers are scared to death. They're trying to pull it together, but it ain't gonna happen. And that good pretending white boy, he knows this. But when confronted about it and told that you can't have my vote, I will give you 4 more years of Trump, white supremacy crawled back into its fucking black hole.